Right. Okay. So if you've already joined, Jon and myself are very excited about today's session. I'm going to introduce Jon properly shortly, but we're going to give everybody a minute or two because the numbers are rolling in. And as they roll in, why not let us know where you're from, especially if you're from anywhere. If you're from Bognor Regis, let us know. Wherever you're from, drop it into the chat. And let's see if we can get an even wider audience than last time. So we've got a lot of people so far. Okay, I'm looking through. Can you see any familiar names, Jon?
No, not at the moment. Let's have a little look. Oh, I definitely see a few familiar names now, actually. So,
yeah. Okay, who else have we got? Everyone's shy. Everyone's shy. Enter your message. I'm going to put, I'm from London. Just see if we can, there you go. You see my message, Jon?
I can see it. Yeah, there you go. Look.
You're definitely from London, aren't you?
I'm a London lad originally, yeah.
Yeah. How can I tell that?
But Brighton adopted though, so.
Brighton adopted. So you can, if you look at the names coming in, you can see the dilemma I was in earlier, can't you?
Yeah, just a little.
There's some kind of link thing. So we're a minute past. Let's give it another 90 seconds before we get started. Is that all right with you, Jon?
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah.
Good.
I wouldn't mind knowing where some of the people are from, though. I think you're right, Jon. If anyone wants to share where they're from at the moment or where they're based, that'd be amazing.
Yeah. Where are you now? Where in the world are you? They're shy. Everyone's shy today.
Let's hope not.
I'll drop in the question. Oh, it's coming into the questions. Okay, Holly is sweltering in Lewis. Chris, thank you. Yeah, you're right, Chris. Tell us where you're from, Chris. Eva, I don't have the option of chat. Yeah, that's me. I clearly don't know how this technology works. Drop it into the questions. Oh, look at that. SoCal. Evan from SoCal. Yeah.
Okay, we're getting quite a lot of comments now, Jon.
This is good. Okay. Laura is from Houston,
Texas.
I bet it's hotter than Houston here right now. Actually,
yeah.
No,
Texas is Denver. Diana in Denver.
London, Ontario, Canada. We got somebody from Eastbourne, the sunniest place in the UK. No, it's not. It's London.
Surely it's Brighton. I'd like to argue that was Brighton, but
Matthew's in Chicago. Ross in sunny Watford. Chris, Wisconsin. Utoxeter, Nicola. Chris, Madison. Okay, right. Denver. Jessica, Quebec. People from all over. Anyway, without further ado, today's webinar is I guess it's slightly different to the usual webinars. And in the webinars that we've been doing over we've done hundreds over the past few years, we use a lot of data, lots of charts, matrices, insights, lots of visualizations of the search landscape. But we get so many requests from people to talk a little bit more about the platform that generates all of these visualizations. So today we want to give you a glimpse of just how we do that. And with that in mind, I've invited Jon Barker along. And Jon Barker's from our solutions team, and he's going to come in and reveal all. So Jon, you just want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Jon. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, really. I've been at Pi for nearly as long as you, Jon, actually, about 14, 15 years. So I just get the opportunity to do something like this after this amount of time. It's brilliant for me. So thank you for having me.
Great to have you here, Jon. So let's get moving now. A lot of people out there, I'm sure you already use Pi, but if you don't and you've never heard of it, what is this Pi? What is this Pi? Basically, it's an incredible platform that enables you to oh, somebody's pinging me, to understand and visualize the entire organic landscape, to discover revenue opportunities, to boost your organic performance, and close to my heart, to optimize in the context of your competitors, the search landscape, Google's algorithms, and your ecosystems. Now, before we really get going, just a little bit of housekeeping to help us on our way. If you've got questions, post them in there. Post anything in there. Post some chat in there. Just exactly as you're doing now. We love those reactions. So if you like what you're hearing, you want a bit more, then send us a heart, or I don't know. What reactions have we got, John? Is it just hearts? Thank you, Holly.
There we go. Oh, we've got a few. We've got 5 different ones. Hopefully not too many thumb downs.
Yeah, no. Yeah, thank you for all those lovely reactions. Okay, the webinar is being recorded, and we're going to send out the slides and a recording straight after this as soon as it's completed. And at the end, if you've got any feedback, especially if you've seen some of the other webinars and you want us to talk about a particular subject, maybe you want more about generative search and ChatGPT and prompt engineering, or you want to know more about cannibalization and how to solve problems, just feedback, and I'm sure we'll be able to do that for you. So moving on, what do you need to know? What do you need to know to be extraordinary in search? What do you need to know what your position is in the market? You need to know where your opportunities are, number 2. And number 3, you need to know what's holding you back. Because if you discover what's holding you back and you can fix that, then very often you're going to start to perform incredibly well. And we're going to show you live. John's going to show you live how we use the platform to solve these problems and to provide these answers. So, number 1, your position in the market. Let's kick off with a very quick poll, shall we? Hopefully that poll, the magic people in the background are going to make this poll appear. Right, okay, here we go. And you have to do this as well, John. We all have to do it. How many competitors are you currently tracking? Are you interested in? Are you obsessed with? Are you analyzing their performance? 1 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 plus, or 0?
Wow.
Okay.
I'm surprised at this.
Right, yeah. Did the answer come up? Did I press something wrong?
Oh, John, it was looking interesting. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Oh, there you go. Okay, so that's if that's it. 1 to 10, 62% of people, 1 to 10 competitors. 29%, 10 to 20. 5%, 20 plus, which I think is quite interesting. 5%, 20 plus. What are your thoughts on that, John?
I mean, I'm surprised at 1 to 10s there. I mean, the only thing that I think of when I think of understanding the competitors is actually understanding the entire landscape. When we think about competitors, we normally think, I don't know, if you're one of our clients like Harrods, then they've got Harvey Nicks and they've got Liberty and so on and so forth. Now, that's who they think their direct competitors are. But when we're looking at the SERP landscape, well, actually, it changes completely. We can have so many different more competitors, and we need to be tracking those as well.
Absolutely. And I think so many people have their perceived competitors. Yeah. And when they see their actual organic competitors, that can be a very different thing.
Okay, I'm interested in the one person that said 0 as well, John. Whoever that is, I'd like to talk to you.
Yeah, let's see if we can track them down at the end. That would be because there is a danger of taking an isolated view of optimization, optimizing not in the context of the competition, which is so vital. The 4 pillars. Okay, so understanding your position in the market. Why do you need to do it? Why don't you just optimize and make money? Well, you need to know where you're doing well and where you're not. Okay, you've got to obsess with where you're not doing well. You need to identify the gaps and the opportunities in your performance. Okay, but not in isolation. You need to know how your competitors are performing. You need to understand who is doing well and why. What are the elements in common with their success? And with that in mind, I'm going to pass to John now, who is going to take you through these 3 elements, features, parts of the platform. We'll be looking at dashboard performance or performance dashboard, share of voice, and visibility indexes. So John, that's over to you.
Thank you very much. Let me just test this out. Hopefully you can see my screen now.
Got it, John.
You can see that? Brilliant.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm going to start with dashboards, because the best way to kind of start understanding your landscape is actually having a dashboard based on, or you versus all of your competitors. These dashboards were based mainly when we had a customer advisory meeting. We've kind of got a board of customers that come to us and say, what is it that you really want to see from Pi? And one of these sessions that we had, it was probably more than 70% of them said to us, well, we want to see a dashboard where we can see everything in one singular place. So one of the reasons we created the dashboards was purely because of that. Now, on our dashboards, we've got loads of different metrics, but two of the core areas about understanding the competitor landscape sit around two key metrics. Okay, the first one is like share of voice, and I'll go on in a minute talking a little bit how we calculate that. But the second part is all around visibility. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with share of voice. Now, share of voice allows us to understand the entire landscape of our keyword universe and how we perform versus every single player in the market. Okay, what we do is we calculate our share of voice based on our organic value score. Now, our organic value score is probably quite different to most other share of voice calculations that are out there. And the big reason for this is we're trying to understand the value of every search term and entail every category and subcategory behind that. So most share voice calculations actually tend to look at pure search volume. Okay, how many times is it searched for a month, and what percentage of that are we getting? Okay, but what we do is we use that obviously in a click-through rate curve, but what we also use is CPC rates on average. Okay, at that particular point in time, we're also using competition rates, and the reason that we're using those metrics is to understand a really important part around the intent of a particular keyword or category, or how people are searching. Because we understand that more the people are searching, the more people in the PPC teams have an understanding and bid more money on that. So we're utilizing those metrics. So this particular output here is looking at the top 30 performers, and I think I'm looking at the US electricals area. Okay, and what we're doing here is we're actually understanding what the share of voice is of all of these different players in the market. So we can see here Apple, Amazon, Walmart, Home Depot, and so on. And we're not only seeing what their share of voice is, but we're also understanding, well, how is that share of voice actually built up around that total element around that. So here what we can see is all of these different categories giving us like computing, home appliances, mobile phones, and so on. And what we can start to do is delve deeper into this. So if I'm looking at Home Depot, I can see they're doing really well in the home appliances area, as an example. If I then want to click onto home appliances, well, then we recategorize who's performing best there based on that share of voice. And then secondary level of breaking it down into those different subcategories. Now, Pi allows you to pretty much categorize your data however you want, normally based on your architecture, but if you want to do it by intent or any other way, you can do it also. So that's share of voice. Now, the other important element here is visibility. Now, visibility, our indexes we have in Pi are based on a very simple metric, and they're pretty much the original Pi. Okay, so when we first started building tools for ourselves internally, these were one of the very first tools that we created. Now, the visibility indexes allow us to take away value of every single keyword and treat every keyword as the same thing almost. Okay, so if we're looking here at this particular timeline, okay, again, I've gone into the computing area, and I want to take back over the last, I'd say 12 months or so. Okay, what it allows us to do is compare ourselves versus any other sites that we want to compare against, but really importantly, we're now understanding what not only our competitors are doing, but what impacts are different algorithms having on the search results, okay, and people's positions in the market. So what we have here, we can see movements happening around here. So you also see a point in time here, and that's telling us, well, at that point in time, there was a Google helpful content update. And what this allows us to do is see when all these sites are moving in a certain way, why is that happening? Is it because Google's changed something? Is it released something new, or so on? And they're the two big differences between the way that we look at the competitor landscape. John, you're one of your favourites, these, aren't they?
I love visibility indexes, and if for some reason I think my performance is declining somewhere, the first place I go is a visibility index and ask the question: is it just me, or is it myself and others? If it's the latter, it points to algorithm, and then we can learn from those who've gone up. And speaking of which, I'm just going to come back
Yep.
to my screen, John. Thank
Brilliant.
you. And what I'm going to do is just show you, because people keep asking about the last algo update. How big was it? How big wasn't it? It wasn't very big at all. Okay, and that makes sense. This is a core update. This is a manifestation of your performance for Double Eat. It's about quality, and with over 10 core updates under its belt, and the goalpost that Google sets not shifting enormously, then it's no surprise that the impact of these is getting less and less and less since the good old Medic update of about 5 years ago. So here we can see an example, and this is travel, love a bit of travel, where we just had one site, interestingly, improving 3 days after that core update. That was the pattern of the August one. The impacts were felt 3 days afterwards. Very unusual. So they are changing. But yeah, that's why I love a visibility index.
And
So
John, one more thing to add on these is there's that part at the top there where it talks about the SERP features. And one of the really
yeah,
lovely things about the changing landscape is sometimes you think your positions have moved, but actually what you find out when you dig deeper into this data is that you haven't actually dropped off. You've just changed to a different SERP feature, or someone else has had a feature that's come into the SERPs in that way. So it's really powerful that we can add and take that away.
yeah, so good. And if you're ever looking at these guys, and if you're Pi users, always toggle on, toggle off, just to check. And sometimes you think you've dropped. Oh my goodness, I've lost visibility. You toggle features. Actually, no, you've got a whole bunch of answer cards. Isn't that wonderful? Cool. So let's move on to the second part where we can discover our biggest opportunities. And it's time for our second poll. And I'll try not to destroy this one. Okay. How do you out there, guys, discover your opportunities right now? Okay. Particular topics, value of keywords, content that's not performing, all of the above. Okay. Are you clicking on yours or are you just leaving it, John?
I kind of just keep watching people's answers. I'm interested.
Anything this time. I killed it last time. I can see John Sharman, I see you in there.
Nice.
Good to see you, my friend. Okay, the results are in. Okay, all of the above. So good to hear. 48%. Okay, next, value of keywords. Now, this is interesting, guys. 30% value of keywords. Because let's think about where search is going. And yeah, we've been obsessed about the value of keywords and keyword volumes. But as we're moving towards the generative experience and longer tail queries, where perceived value or volumes are almost zero, we might have to start thinking differently. But wonderful answers. 4% focus on content that's not performing. Yeah,
Wow.
got to do that. So
I'm surprised at that one, John. I'm really surprised that the people are not looking at their entire ecosystem and understanding, well, why is this content not performing? What do we need to do next to this content that we already have? And you always say about looking at your entire ecosystem, doing it contextually. And I think seeing that quite low there, again, was quite surprising for me.
Yeah, or maybe their answer was part of the all of the above, which means
maybe
they
it
did think
was.
about
Maybe it was. That's maybe what it was.
I like to think it was. So thank you, participants. Okay, so uncovering the most rewarding opportunity. So why is it so important? Well, it's important because by looking at the data, you can identify, you can understand, and you can respond to trends, and you can create content and get it out there well in advance of when you're going to need it. Okay, so that's super important. I think John's got a really good example of that. Low-hanging fruit, love it or hate it, that expression, but it's out there, and there's not a site that I look at where you don't say. And I was talking to some people this morning. I said, "My God, you've got so much content on page 2 of Google." And they said, "What would you do?" I said, "I target that." Yeah, think theming, think internal linking, and then understanding that changing SERP landscape. One of my favorite things. So I'm going to pass to John now for the first 2 parts of this, and then I'm going to get into the SERP radar. John, back to you.
Brilliant. I mean, we probably could have picked out about 4 or 5 different ones in this instance, John, I think, tools that are sitting in Pi. But I think these ones that we picked out, for me, are probably the ones that get used the most, I would say, because what these charts show us. Now, this here, we're visualizing trend analysis, okay, and that's trends based on the search volume of keywords. We can also turn this into monetary value as well, and if you want to hear more about that, kind of get in context and I can show you that as well. But what we're looking at here is we're taking sites performance away completely, and we're understanding the changing landscape of a category and how that's peaking at a certain point or dropping off. So again, we're looking at the US electricals market, and we're looking at all these categories such as computing, home appliances, and so on. And what it's telling us is actually when peaks are actually happening, but more importantly, when people and demand for something is starting to happen as well. So as you would expect, you're getting peaks around computing and most areas in electricals around the November, December time. You would imagine that's down to Black Friday and also Christmas. However, what we're seeing here is a big quite decline in the computing area now, and actually that Black Friday push is maybe decreasing and more people actually spending throughout the rest of the year. What we can also do is actually drill down into this into more detail. And we can see here that we've got a big peak that happened in November 2020. I would imagine that either had something to do with what happened around COVID, and also I think there was a release of the PlayStation and Xbox at that time. But what we can do is really dig into this data to really understand, well, what's happening, what's moving up, and actually is there any new trends that we need to be aware of as well. Okay. I've got quite a nice case on this. A customer of ours actually once, this is a few years ago now, but it was utilizing this data to understand new trends around dresses and trousers and tops. And what all of the data was saying when they was looking into it was that everyone was searching around animal prints. Okay, but actually when we delved into the data in more detail, it wasn't just animal print people were searching for. It actually was more around the individual animals themselves, leopard print, zebra print, and so on. And that's what we saw the trend actually even more increasing in. And they actually changed their strategy based on that data to say, well, look, we actually have got animal print landing pages, but we need to create these zebra print pages, these leopard print pages to really go after that search demand. So that's kind of looking at the trend analysis. Another area of Pi, and probably my favorite chart in Pi, and I've said this a hell of a lot. If you've met me before, you probably know this of me. And this is the estimated revenue opportunity. So I've picked on a site here, and that's target.com. Okay, so if there's anyone from Target here, hello. And if you want to see more, please let us know. But what this is showing us is a really clear understanding of how you're performing now, what's the opportunity of the total space, and really importantly, that low-hanging fruit, if you will, what's the content that's currently sitting on pages 2 and 3 of Google. Now, what we do with this data is we take the site and all of their keyword universe, we use our organic value score, and we apply an average conversion value and a conversion rate to that data. What that allows us to do is really understand navy blue, where we're currently positioned and how much revenue we're making from that particular area. We use the yellow line to benchmark ourselves versus the top players in the market. And if we were to become a top player, how much could we be earning in that area? And for me, probably the most important color is this pink color, because what the pink color tells us is the value of that content that's sitting on pages 2 and 3. And if we can move that content onto page 1, how much extra revenue can we drive from that particular area? Now, here you can see there's a huge amount for Target in the electricals area and computing. I can then click onto here, nice and simple, and break that down by our subcategories that we have on our site. So you can really go deep on that. And if you wanted to take it one step further, you come down to your table, you can click onto the monetary value in that position, and it will take you all the way down to the keyword level as well. But John, I'll pass it over to you to go through the SERP matrices and the SERP radars.
Thank you, John. Indeed, you're right. They have a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, I know, a lot.
I was quite shocked, but quite intrigued at the same time. I might dig into that later. Okay, so yeah, the third part of this middle section, understanding the changing search landscape. Now, I've got two different views here. So this one is actually bearing in mind that search generative experience is going to drop. And I put money on December. You guys can call me out if I'm wrong. What is search generative experience? What's that going to mean? It's going to mean everything. Everything is going to change. Search is going to become conversational. People are even being encouraged to use voice, and they are right now. You pick up Bing. There's a microphone. Where's the keyboard? I don't know. I can't find it. So we have to be prepared. How prepared are you? Well, you can use the SERP radar. On the left, we've got a radar for 1,000 men's fashion keywords, okay? And you can see the features there. The video carousel is strong, video links. People also ask, no answer cards, lots of images. Let's come up with 1,000 voice equivalents. Good old ChatGPT can help us with this, and it'll do it brilliantly. And more clients are building out these conversational equivalents to ask the question, are we prepared for the future? And when I say future, where are we now? August, September, October, November, December. Got 4 months. Literally 4 months before life as we know it from a search perspective changes. So what does the future look like if people switch to voice? Well, huge number of answer cards. People also ask, is shrinking? And of course it's shrinking because longer queries are closer to intent. And the wonderful answer cards, what's so good about those? Well, how do you get into the living room without your competitors when all the customers have got their artificially intelligent, voice-enabled personal assistants? And when they ask a question, what are the best men's blazers in fashion this summer? And then that thing pipes up, pulls from the answer card, hey presto. Are you prepared? You can also do wonderful visibility indexes that Jon showed you with the same data on. How are we going to be positioned in 12 months? So that's now and near future. Okay, here's another chart. And on this other one, where are we? There we go. Okay, this is looking at beauty, an area I am expert in, Jon. Makeup, lipsticks, all of this sort of thing. This is looking at a thousand keywords last year on the left compared with today. Something stand out. Can you see what's standing out there, Jon?
Yeah, I mean the video is insane. That's just quite crazy.
Where's video gone? Where's video gone? And the message here is, if you've got a content strategy, maybe it's a seasonal one. What are we going to do this? Oh, let's do the same as last year. That was brilliant. If your content strategy involved video, getting video into Google, and it involved other features, and then you haven't actually looked at the landscape and they've gone or new features are in place, we see there's so much, then your strategy is not going to be fully intent-based. And what do I mean by fully intent-based? Well, remember that the search landscape is nothing more than an incredible manifestation of searcher intent. There is no landscape without a searcher. You get that?
Yeah.
You understand that, Jon? Like you're a physics boy at heart.
Yeah.
There is no landscape without the searcher. The searcher creates the landscape, and the landscape is a reflection of intent. And you need to be looking, and we need to be looking. And you cannot create an intent-led content strategy without asking the question, what does the landscape look like? And is it the same as the last time I looked at it? What feature opportunities are there? Thumbs up from Vanessa, I like that. So there we go, the wonderful SERP radar. Let's move into part 3, shall we, Jon? Oh, and before we do that, if you start to categorize your keywords in different ways, for example, by intent, by demographic, by age group, and build those out, I challenge you to do this. You do radars and you will see that demographic A has a different landscape to demographic B. So if you're targeting multiple demographics and you are thinking one landscape and you have a content strategy that is focused on those features and that one landscape, you're missing out on this other one. I'm not going to get into the SERP multiverse. That was for another time.
Jon, that's a very interesting point, though. So you mentioned the demographic of people. Is that based on the language that people are using and the changing of language from maybe an older generation to a younger generation?
Exactly. And I remember working with a client a while back, and we were talking about the language people use for photography. So what do you go out and take, John? Do you go out and what do you do? Describe it. Do you go and take pictures? What do you do?
Oh, me, I like my videos. I'm a video person. I like
Yeah.
taking.
But if you were going to take pictures, what would you say to me? I'm going out to,
Oh, I don't
this
know.
is a test of your age. Would you be happy with saying I'm going out to take some pictures?
Yeah, I suppose I probably would go and take some pics. Maybe I might be a bit younger, John. I don't know. No, I would say I'm going out to take some pictures. Maybe
If you're younger,
snap. I might say snap or shoot some pictures. No, I'm not sure. I'm
shoot.
not sure.
That's it. Shoot. There you go. There you go. See, I would say I'm going to shoot some pictures. So I'm obviously younger than you. So this is it. Now, as soon as you start using different, and okay, here's what you do. You take your existing keywords, say 100 keywords, demographic A, and you then tell ChatGPT, I want you to imagine that you are an 18 to 24-year-old male living here, and I want you to convert these keywords into something more appropriate from a language perspective. And you can do that for multiple demographics. You can do it for multiple intents. You do these radar charts. You do visibility indexes. And suddenly you realize, oh my goodness, I'm missing out on this whole multiverse. It makes sense, doesn't it?
I love it, John. I love it, and I'm actually going to go and do it later because I think it's brilliant.
You're
Change the way that you
yeah.
categorize data. I have thought about it from an intent point of view quite a lot, and how we can organize it from that informational, transactional, and so on. But taking the demographic into that is for me quite genius. Love it, love it.
Oh, glad you like it, John. And it's like we get hung up on men's blazers. Okay, all right, I'm going to get told off if I keep talking about men's blazers. Let me talk about, I had an ice cream earlier. I'm on a sugar rush, a fab. Let's talk about ice creams. We're selling ice creams, best ice creams. So we just think best ice cream and we just assume everybody's searching for best ice cream. Well, depending on your age, depending on where you live, depending on what your interests are, depending on your need in that moment, you might phrase that in multiple different ways. And think about this, guys, before we move on. If you're going to use your voice and you get 10 people in the room and ask them to vocalize this, you might get 10 different answers. That's search generative experience. You get 10 different answers, which means 10 different queries. You get 10 different landscapes. The question is, are you in them all? Right, let's move on. We could talk all day about this. What's holding you back? What's holding you back? Time for I think it's our final poll. Time for our final poll.
I love
Let's
the polls,
find out
John.
I love the poll.
I love them.
Not enough data, technical issues, content, not sure where to start.
Ooh. More of a split, this one, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm not touching anything. Maybe we should have put like all of the above. This is the main thing that holds you back, the main thing that really gets to you. Interesting, a number of people who say not sure where to start. I think that's a big challenge for people when there's so much data. Okay, yeah, not sure where to start. I like that. And technical. It's always technical, isn't it? But there's so much that you can do with content. The great thing about content, you get that right, you can see improvement in 24 hours or less.
John, there was this thing I think I heard at Brighton SEO once, and I can't remember if it was Brighton SEO or you said it or someone I know said it, but they always said to me that with technical SEO and content SEO, they always look at it that if you get your technical right, that gets you to zero, all right? And the content gets you beyond that. And that's the importance. You can't get anywhere without your technical part being correct, but that only gets you to that part, the zero. Your content above that really pushes you beyond than where you need to get to. I've always liked that.
You know what I like that? It's like McGregor's X and Y theory. You know, those lower level needs only eliminate dissatisfaction, take you to zero. So content, that's the stuff that we need to really work on. And you can turn the dial with it. Internal linking, theming, content, double eat, helpful content guidelines, all of that stuff we talk about. Wonderful. Right. Let's continue this journey. So recognizing what's holding you back. Well, why is it important? It sounds so straightforward, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the more you understand exactly what's holding you back, is it technical? Is it really? Is it core web vitals? Is it something as big as cannibalization? What's holding you back? The more you understand it, the better and the faster you can turn the dial. The more of an understanding of your ecosystem that you've got, the easier your life will be. And then I'm going to pass back to Jon for the final two pieces of this jigsaw. Jon,
Yeah.
over to you.
Thank you very much. I mean, again, we could have used a hell of a lot of parts of Pi for this part. So, but the thing that we get asked a lot about is cannibalization and the conflict that's happening on your site. So what I wanted to share with people was a link from our dashboard that is actually a tool that tracks the conflict that's happening to your site on a daily basis. And that's based on this tool here. It's called the Conflict Detector. Now, what this does is every day, if you get a new URL returned for a keyword that was different to before, which is the top of Google and your performance, well, Pi will pick that up. And it'll be a consistent tracking element of all of the cannibalization that's happening on your site. What it then does is then it starts to break down in what areas of your site is this cannibalization happening the most. Now, interestingly on this one, and I picked this out because I found this very interesting, is that the area with the most amount of conflict just about is computing. And if you remember the chart that we was looking at before, the area with the most amount of opportunity was also computing. So for me, that's starting to paint a picture. Is the thing that's really holding Target back is they've got loads of content loads of content on the site that's cannibalizing. So when we go down here, what we get is a table of information that goes through every single search term, and it gives us information such as how many times does it search for a month, how many URL changes are happening, what's the start position, the end position, and top position. But we've got this really, really important column here, which is actually called traffic impact. And traffic impact allows us to understand the impact that this conflict is happening on this particular keyword. How much traffic are we potentially losing for this keyword by not rectifying this situation? Okay, so you can even sort this by the traffic impact score if you wanted to. Okay, however, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick one of these out, what I was looking at before. Let's have a look. So what's a good one here? 100-inch Sony TV. That'd be a Samsung TV. That would be a nice one.
You got one of them, Jon. You got one of them.
No, I haven't. No, unfortunately, about half that size it is. But interestingly, they've been as high as position 11, so nearly getting to page 1. Okay, but at the moment they're in position 53. So there's a decent traffic impact there. It's over 2,000 searches a month. So what's going on? So from this particular table, we can then go into the data and understand, well, exactly that. What is holding us back? Oh, well, okay. So this chart is showing us the daily positions 1 down to 100, and then the date range across the bottom. Now, every time you can see an A, B, C, D here, and so on, it means on that particular day, a new URL for target.com has come into the SERPs, and it's almost changing. So the user experience is bad. If you come one day to look at something and then it's gone off the SERPs and you go and find it again, you find a different page, that's bad. But they're never going to get onto page 1, at least, whilst this is happening, okay? But as we go down the page, what we can start to understand is, well, what are all of the pieces of content that are cannibalizing for this particular keyword? And I mean, there's product pages here, there's category pages here. I don't actually see a landing page exactly for Samsung 100-inch TV. So maybe that's something they would need to create. But what it also does show us, really importantly, is the top position, or what URL has had the top position and which one has been visible for the longest period of time. And what's really interesting when we look at this is that we can see quite clearly that this one here has had the highest position and been visible for the most amount of time. So if it was me, and Jon, I know you've done webinars on this, if it was me, I'll be looking at all of these other pieces of content and think of ways that we could potentially internally link to this page if this was the page that we wanted to return.
Nice. Yeah. I won't say any more about cannibalization, Jon. We'll never finish.
No, I know.
But I love that.
Brilliant. Over to you, Jon.
Lovely. Right. I think we're just we're rounding up now. So back to my screen. That's the one. Okay. So time for takeaways before we take any questions. There's been some interesting comments coming in as well. Actually, key takeaways. I always talk about contextual optimization. Optimize in the context of your competition, one of the four pillars, which is why you need to forget who you believe your competitors are, but track and monitor and analyze who your competitors actually are. Not just in that SERP that you're obsessed with, but in those multiple SERPs. Think those intent-based demographic SERPs, different SERPs, pre-post zero SERP, post-post. I can't even speak anymore. I blame that ice lolly, too much sugar. But yeah, multiple SERP, all your competitors. Understand visibility and share of voice. Okay, do not use share of voice and that MI table to work out if you've been penalized by an algorithm or benefited from an algorithm. You won't find it in there. It'd be very misleading. You know, you want a pure visibility index, just as Jon showed. Monetary and traffic value, you know, and that's the stuff you were talking about, Jon. Chasing the money, the content that's sitting on page 2 and 3. Jon showed you, beautifully how you can identify how much it's worth to you, and of course, monitoring your entire ecosystem as well as the entire SERP ecosystem. It's like when you're optimizing a piece of content, the first thing I do is go to the SERP. I can do that in Pi Datametrics and ask the question, do I belong? First question. Second question, what are the feature opportunities? Third question, okay, what can I learn from the SERP? What are the questions on the mind of my audience? What are they thinking about? What content are they consuming now? Simple as that. Intent-led content strategy.
John, I would add another one to this as well. I would actually add another point. Your point about categorizing your data in more than one way. I think that is another key takeaway that I've taken from today, especially as well, especially around the intent and then the demographic as well. I think that's genius.
And you know what? I think that could be the topic for another webinar. Categorizing this content ecosystem in multiple ways to see how performance differs and to see what opportunities arise. What do you reckon, Jon?
I like that. I like that a lot.
There we go. Just set myself up some work there. So, question and answer time. I'm just looking at some of these. Interesting. Evan said, curious to see how Google search generative experience updates will, I think, will change everything, will affect things. I think it's going to be bigger than we can ever imagine. Who wants a blue link, especially if you're on informational search? Somebody was saying here, nice to see more of Pi. So there you go, Jon. Thank you for sharing. Are there any other questions that you guys want to drop into the question box? If not, it's 43. I think we were due to finish on the 45, weren't we, Jon? But you can always reach out to myself or to Jon. Even if you're watching this offline later, just reach out to us. If you want a demo, and on that note, I'm gonna move to this slide, this one here. If you do want a demonstration using your data, you want to find out more, you could sign up for a demo. And if you're lucky, you'll get Jon, and you'll take them through, won't you, Jon?
Of course, absolutely.
Wonderful. So 43, in the final sort of 90 seconds, I'm just going to move through to that slide. We covered a lot today, and we covered a lot of pace. So the first thing I want to do is say thank you to everybody who's here live on what's probably the hottest day of the year in the UK, for sitting in front of a computer, listening to Jon and myself. So thank you all you who tuned in. And Jon, thank you so much for coming along and showing us how Pi works.
Thanks for having me, Jon. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
My pleasure. So once again, thanks to everybody. And if you have any more ideas for topics, failing that, let's do those intent-based ecosystems, what they look like, how you can visualize them, and what you can do about it. I'm going to kick myself afterwards. Christoph's going to be lost as I just set myself up for more work. But yeah, any more ideas for future webinars, please let us know. Otherwise, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
See you later, peeps. Thank you. Bye.